Hi, I'm Olivia from MixMag Asia and the Bye Bye Plastic Foundation. This panel is beaming to you from Asia, more specifically from Thailand. Please allow me to humbly present to you my favorite festival in the world, one that has some kind of mythical status in the West still, so I've heard. But here in Asia, Wonderfruit is lauded as the single most immersive, hedonistic, creative, otherworldly, and sustainable festival we have. Wonderfruit began in 2014 with just 1,500 people, and by 2019, attendance was somewhere around 20,000. There have been a couple of media references that have called it the Burning Man of Asia, and I can agree that it has definitely become this time of year, usually in December, where everybody from around Asia and beyond really gathers and comes together for this one occasion and doesn't sleep for 4 days. But Wonderfruit on its own is a unique and extremely special gathering of people, music, art, culture, and nothing else in the world compares to Wonderfruit. But what our conversation is about today is Wonderfruit's ability to sell sustainability to the masses. From banning single-use everything on site to building structures and art out of materials like bamboo and even hemp, to composting 100% of their food waste, Wonderfruit has come out carbon positive, and I don't think a single one of their 20,000 guests has complained or was inconvenienced in any way. It's like they turned 20,000 people into eco-warriors for a weekend, which hopefully they go home and apply to their day-to-day lives. So without further ado, allow me to introduce Wonderfruit's visionary founder, Pete, and managing director, John. And the way I see it, Pete is known for coming up with these outrageous ideas, and John makes them happen. John keeps Pete sane, and Pete keeps John insane. It's symbiosis. So, Pete, over to you. If you can give us a little bit, it's right, isn't it? Pete, over to you. If you can give us a little bit more background on the inception of Wonderfruit and just how this beautiful thing began.
Thanks, Olivia, for your kind words. I feel a little bit shy now, but they were very, very kind words indeed. So around 7 years ago, I had like an itch, and actually that's how the company name started. We called it Scratch First, which is the company that was founded to create Wonderfruit, and now we have another brand called Fruitful. But basically, I had an itch, and I wanted to scratch it, and that itch was due to what I felt was we had all this beautiful culture and art and music, and all this popular culture was becoming more and more apparent in people's life. The word lifestyle, I think, kind of came about around 8-9 years ago. And then so I felt like, how can we use that to create impact? It's kind of like a very soft power approach, I think. And that's how Wonderfruit started. It's with the things that I kind of knew well around me, and taking those things and trying to create a dialogue, a meaningful dialogue with people in terms of our relationship with the planet.
So before we get into what that relationship with the planet is, I kind of want to give viewers an idea of just what kind of caliber artists that you book. Can you kind of run through some of the peak performers that you've had over the years?
Yeah, so in terms of like musical artists, we've had everyone from, in the first couple years, we had De La Soul, we had Woodkid, we did a collaboration between John Hopkins and the Eden, the guys over at the Eden Project, the Eye Project, which was like a very immersive laser and light show. We had Jose Gonzalez. Recently, we've had Fortet, Floating Points. We had Erase Tapes doing a takeover with us. We had let's see, Alpha Miss, Krung Bin, back when, actually back then Krung Bin was relatively unknown. I don't think we could afford Krung Bin now, John. But back then we could. And then Blonde Redhead, Rival Consoles. So yeah, it's an eclectic mix. And we actually have a lot of Asian artists and Thai artists as well. Paradise Malam in their initial phases played at us in the first year as well. And many, many more Malam acts.
Yeah. So 6 years now, how did your vision for the festival change from 2014 until now?
I don't think it's changed much since the inception, meaning the intention was there right in the beginning. I think what has evolved is the methodology and the approach to doing so, which in the beginning it was kind of almost maybe like haphazard or a very innocent way of approaching it, and then through time and many mistakes, we become weathered, and had to really realize that we had to really figure out a way to do it without killing ourselves. So that methodology has definitely evolved. I would say we're more focused. I would say we're more focused now on the methodology and the cultural significance of what we represent, and the party is a byproduct of that. So we're not, and I say this a lot, to the team and everything. If we do it well, the party happens. It's a product. We are never in it to do the party.
Okay.
So I guess it's evolved and become very clear.
Yeah, and I think in the early days when it was the attendance was relatively low, and we moved to as Olivia was saying, upwards of 20,000 people, and who knows how it continues moving forward. I think there's more of a responsibility from our side to play our part, and with sustainability being such at the core of what we do, it's all these important messages that we want to put out in a meaningful way. So I think that level of purpose really carries through now to kind of everything that we do. And I think that there's a shared responsibility that we all feel we need to and do our part throughout this.
So on the subject of sustainability and just what you were saying about, you do things right and the party comes, but I think a large number of those 20,000 people still come for the party. So, I mean,
yeah.
it's but it's amazing what you guys have done in terms of sustainability, considering that you have 20,000 people. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So I think that this is a great moment to sort of show off some of those sustainable milestones or achievements. John, maybe if you could kind of walk us through some of what they are.
Yeah, sure. I think, before going through on the sustainability achievements, I think it's important to kind of set the context of where Wonderfruit sits from a model perspective. A few years ago, we coined the term hedonistic sustainability. And if we have hedonism on one side and sustainability on the other, Wonderfruit kind of sits right in that middle line. We're not an NGO, we're a for-profit organization, but the way, we were just talking about in terms of our narrative and the messages that we push out, we do it through the creative arts, we do it through experiences. We do it through things you can see, touch, and feel, and that carries through to the 30 to 40 venues that carry through on site. I think at face value, if you don't or haven't heard of Wonderfruit, and maybe if you Google Wonderfruit, you see it as a music festival. And although not technically incorrect, music is a core component and soundtrack towards what we do. In actuality, Wonderfruit we have sustainability at our core. And in actuality, it's a sustainability platform just disguised as a festival. I think the way we build, measure, and monitor things is really important towards how we look at our achievements. I think you pointed out carbon positive for the past few years. We take many different policies, ban single-use plastic filtrated from our own lakes. We're probably one of the single largest users of bamboo, and all our builds are using sustainable or upcycled materials, and that includes our installations and whatnot. Last year, we saw 97+% of all our waste avoiding landfills, and this was a big initiative that we took on. We wanted to find ways to recycle it, upcycle it, compost it, you name it. This was all built into our infrastructure, our narrative. And I think this is important to note because Wonderfruit is kind of like this big onion, as we always say, and there's, depending on how deep you want to go and how the level of narrative you want to be introduced to, that's yours to take. And we don't want to push these views on anyone. It should be more or less adopted. And we look at Wonderfruit as a platform for people to experience new ideas, get involved, and see more if they choose to do so. I think coming back to the platform, also we always use it as a form of experimentation. So there's a lot of different things that we've engaged with over the past, particularly last year. We banned single-use cuts, and I don't think it's been done before on Asia level before. Every year we see hundred thousands of cups being wasted, even though they're biodegradable and even though we compost it. We just felt this was a huge need to do. So kind of changing that behavioral mindset was a core component towards how we think of Wonderfruit as this giant experimentation. And then we played with a lot of different things. We've given a carbon calculator for guests to offset their carbon emissions by traveling to Wonderfruit. We played with crypto in previous years, and offering tokenized natural capital for people that engage with our tree hour. We built stages out of rice, collected plastic from Bangkok rivers, built stages out of that. The list, you name it, goes on. But I think the main important thing is that these achievements and what we do to measure and monitor are all linked back towards one thing, and that's building experiences. And when we look at it, sustainability kind of sits as that foundational layer underneath to make sure that carries through to everything that we do.
I think you guys also have your communication down packed. I mean, again, I read that you had 50% of attendees that brought their own refill cups. That's 10,000 people bringing their own cup. That's 10,000 people that care enough to bring their own cup and carrying it around. I mean, that's inspiring for other festivals. I mean, how do you do that? How do you communicate that with your audience and let them know that this is how it has to be and have them not complain about it?
Well, I think also, it's funny because Pete comes with these bold claims that we need to do. And I think these are really, really daring and very risky, but also it just speaks to the core of how genuine we are. We put down this rule and we communicate this. And quite frankly, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And in the instance of the cups, it was amazing to see. This is a core behavioral change. People are not used to bringing cups to a festival, let alone the fact that they walk up to one of our venues or bars and they ask for a drink and we don't serve them because they don't have a cup. To us, there's a lot of different things that play out with that. But at the core of it, we put the fact that we want to open up this awareness play. We want people to understand that the tremendous amount of waste that we experience every year, and maybe have them think about a perspective in a little bit different way. So that's a great example, but we're just happy that it turned out the way it did.
I mean, also in terms of cost, I think a lot of festivals are reluctant or wary of looking for these alternatives because of the cost associated. Being that Wonderfruit is now in year 6, do you find that it's cost you more, or in the long run, as they promise, whoever they are, you've saved money in the end?
I think since our model was built right at the core, at the inception with sustainability, it's a little bit different than trying to kind of pivot into that. But let's go to the example of the cups. I think the cup issue, if you look at it from just economics, obviously a lot of people bring their cups, which we encourage, but obviously a lot of people also want to buy cups, and we provide very sustainable solutions to that, and they're also a souvenir, part of the event that you could bring home. So that in itself, is also something that could also sustain revenue as well, right? But apart from that, when we design experiences and stages or installations or talks, or even when we look at what type of acts we bring in that can integrate into that experience, it's built upon this model of how do we challenge people? How do we get them to perhaps, like John was saying, peel that onion? How do we get them to look beyond just what's playing, but what the story behind that is? And a lot of the time that links for us working slightly out the box. We work with instead of say a construction material that is off the grid or on the grid, we work with something a little bit more makeshift. and stuff like that. And these things could actually be more economical. So I guess it's like how you engineer it in the beginning, but if you try to engineer it, I think as an add-on, I think for sure that will come with additional costs. So, but yeah, for us, it's just part of, it's just part of everything we do.
So coming back to the
Can I say hi?
materials, you guys. Coming back to the materials, you guys have really explored a lot of different materials in terms of alternatives over the years. Before you banned the cups, what have been some of the more interesting materials that you guys have worked with and found with in terms of cups and stages or anything?
Yeah, well, we work with a lot of architects. Ever since the beginning, Wonderfruit has always worked with architects that solve problems rather than stage designers, to be honest. And I think it's a different mindset as well, because with that, we could come to it with a problem, meaning like, okay, we have a problem with what can be recycled, or what is truly compostable, or what material has the least impact on the environment when you make it. And then fortunately we're able to work with architects that are problem solvers of their own right, so they can come up with creative solutions. But we've worked with everything from dirt on our own land. We've worked with hemp. We've worked with we've built with handcrafted umbrellas. We've worked with we've worked with recycled waste, the recycled plastic, or even like just waste collected from the area. Lots of bamboo, lots of discarded or unused or reused materials. Recently, I mean, before we had COVID-20, one prototype we were working with, which we will probably launch hopefully when the next Wonderfruit is elephant dung, waste from elephants. So along the way, we've really figured out and tried to push some of what is possible in terms of what people think of as materials. And actually, a lot of it is actually very simple stuff. It's just stuff lying around that communities are using, or people have been using before. So.
I mean, it's amazing what you guys have done using these kinds of materials and been able to sort of marry that with hedonism. I mean, it's like with the theater of feast, that's one that sticks out in my mind. You had this sustainably designed theater, can't call it a stage, and then you served Michelin-starred food. I mean, that's amazing. Could you actually kind of walk people through what some of your most celebrated builds are and how you conceptualize them and with whom?
I think, or probably one of the most iconic builds we have, one of definitely the most celebrated and loved, is the solar stage. And the solar stage started actually not as a solar stage, but as a kids' playground in 2016. And then we kind of saw how people interacted with that, kids and adults. And then the next year, Greg Fleisman, who's done installations at Burning Man, but he's never done it basically as a stage. He's done it as a on the fringe, Burners Without Borders outside, a place for them to hang out. But I guess as a stage, we work very closely with him and to create like a stage that in the daytime kids love. They climb, and kids and adults love alike, and at night, and as you know, in sunrise and sunset, becomes this the communal heartbeat of Wonderfruit, where every sunrise and every sunset, I think it's your best bet if you want to meet a friend, because other than that, everyone's gone. And then you kind of see each other again for a glimpse at sunrise and sunset. So that's one of the most celebrated structures that we work with, that I think people have come to know. Theater of Feast you mentioned as well as Ethos Pavilion, which is the series of umbrellas. I think the umbrella one is very poetic. We had a problem with like wind with the umbrellas, and then we felt, okay, what could we do? But instead of like thinking of like, oh, we have to reinforce the umbrellas with like steel and stuff, which would kind of take away, you know, not only the aesthetic, but probably, you know, just the utility of what these handmade umbrellas are. We work with the designers and the architects. So they created like a ritual every morning, like it was a performance art piece. Every morning they would come and they would put the umbrellas up and put the umbrellas down. It was actually a theatrical like art performance type of dance. So we kind of come up with these type of solutions as well to kind of try to stay as pure as we can to the original concept, and try to add different things that will perhaps surprise people in different ways to it as well. What else? I mean, other structures, actually all the structures are quite, I think, significant. The latest one with MPD with Gun was the theater pavilion, which was by the lake. The year before it was, you know, or a theater stage. And then in 2020, you guys missed out because of we couldn't, you know, Thailand couldn't open its doors to foreign visitors, but but we had converted that into like a lakeside cafe, which brought it a very different dynamic. Rather, you know, you can imagine something being a performance stage, and then actually the year after it becomes a place where people can actually congregate and socialize under. And the dynamic near the lake is actually something that we really like. So hopefully we'll continue to, that'll be a new surprise for people, you know, in the next edition of Wonderfruit. Yeah. And many, many more.
So if you were speaking from a perspective where you wanted to inspire people to also explore builds that are more sustainable, I mean, the ideas you come up with are incredible. What's the process and the workflow like? I mean, do you have an idea and then make it green, or is it the opposite way around?
Usually I think it comes with like how we define like imagining space and interaction. So for us, like space is like maybe like 4-dimensional, right? You have the space itself, the you know how it feels, and you have then how the architect can create space, and then you have what will go within it, right? Which is the sound or the food or the smell and the senses, and then you have how people interact with it. So we always think of things kind of like that way, and then that's how we start, and then we identify architects, and actually most of the architects we work with are ongoing relationships. So they people that have worked with us, you know, some since year 1, year 2, and we continue to work with them. So they know Wonderfruit very well. They're all part of the community.
Yeah,
we actually had Adam. John,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just adding to what P was saying. You know, I think the different levels of architects that we work with add a different level of character to all the different venues and experiences. And, you know, as we talk about, there's, you know, I think if you look at it singularly, there's food venues, music venues, talks venues, but more so than not, throughout the years, all these venues are seeing an intersection of many different things. So you carry characteristics that have many different activities. You have music placed into them. It has some programming. You have some talks and workshops influence in there. So almost like you're developing all these like little pods that are developed. And I think on the creative process, the thought of adding environmental thought is from the start. It's a given considering how we brief in artists. Am I being lost?
Yeah, a little bit.
Choppy, a bit choppy.
Yeah, bit.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying that everything is built in from the get-go when we talk about the creative process. And, you know, when we brief in, you can't brief in an environmental thought or the impact or how we measure it or what we do with it as an afterthought. It's got to be baked within the original ideation part of the process. I think that's really important, and that's almost a given towards what we do and how we work with designers or architects on a regular basis.
Just wanted to let you guys know actually that Adam Paulina spoke on another panel for the festival about sustainable design. So he probably gave a lot of insight onto your builds to another audience. So
Fantastic. We
yeah,
miss
I
Adam
mean,
very much.
good to hear. And me. So, I mean, now coming to what we've all experienced in the last year and looking towards the future, I mean, Wonderfruit's always been about evolution and evolving together. And you guys have consistently, from day one, been one step ahead of the game. I mean, even throughout the pandemic, you have adapted at an incredible speed that is hard to keep up with, you know? So given everything that we've been through and experienced in the last year, from what you've learned, how do you see large events changing in the future, and or how should they be changing and adapting?
Yeah, I mean, for the past year, this is coming into year two. Um, we were put in a situation, of course, where we had to innovate very quickly, and we were able to do so, to a point, I think. But yeah, the question of large gatherings, what is the future for large gatherings? Like I still fundamentally believe that it's part of human nature to want to get together. And that sense of community, I think, is becoming probably more powerful now. And actually, you kind of see it now with sub communities. You kind of see people wanting more than ever a purpose and a sub community to belong to. But in terms of health risks and the things that come with that, I guess I guess time. I think you have to give it a bit of time. I don't think there's a way to do a socially distant, multi-sensory, multi-day festival. I don't think there's a way to do it. Even if there was a way, it'd probably be a bit boring, to be honest, right? So therefore, if that platform were still to exist, then I think time, vaccines, fear subsiding will have to take care of that. But beyond that, I think there's other ways that we can interact with our audience. And those are the things that now we're considering. We did stuff with, we launched a food platform called Fruitful. We did a localized version of Wonderfruit called Muban, which was, engineered to be a 5-weekend, multi-weekend event. And so on and so forth. And we're also trying to explore more ways to engage people, online, virtually as well.
I mean, that's amazing. I think that you guys should give a little bit of insight into what Fruitful was about, because especially initially you launched it as a immersive dining experience that was done over Zoom. I mean, John, maybe you could kind of explain how Fruitful began and what that's evolved into over the last year in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, I think, what P was mentioning, I think we're not alone here. Everyone was facing COVID the same way, on all different levels. And I think from an event business or entertainment side of things, and one that really puts a focus on gatherings, we all took a big hit, right? And instead of looking at that as almost a huge obstacle to go after, look at it more as an opportunity that we can all face. And I think there's ways that businesses now can explore new ways to complement this approach. For us, we knew we had a series of attendees or wanderers, so to speak, that were based in Thailand. We've always had a natural affinity towards doing things within the F&B space. We're probably one of the largest food festivals at Wonderfruit without being a festival. And we catered to a lot of different experiences. Really just said, okay, let's try something here. So we curated, and we went into lockdown. I think it was in April timeframe, and we wanted to bring an experience that it was almost like going out without going out. Everyone's stuck at home. We knew the industry and the chefs. Restaurants were entirely closed. We wanted to provide some hope, some form of glimpse of happiness, some sort of entertainment to people at home. So we almost we did create a private dining experience. It was catered towards about 60 to 100 covers. And we worked with various restaurants or Michelin-starred awarded chefs that you normally wouldn't be able to get with delivery. And we paired it almost like an online event. So we scheduled it every Friday at 7 p.m. on the dot, you would get your food. And then you would link and log into a live stream that we would offer music, entertainment, talks, the chefs doing almost like a mini chef's table and workshop with you. And we felt a lot of really good personal attention towards what we were doing. And we got a lot of good feedback. And I think this is a good example because by doing that and kind of stretching our wings, we weren't into streaming. We tried new tech. We got into the food space a bit. That gave us enough, I guess, momentum, you can say, to move into a larger physical festival, which we launched Fruitful later on in the year, albeit to a local audience. But still, this is the way we see almost kind of that cadence with what we do with Wonderfruit, is that these ideas are baked into the main festival and have roots that go outwards. And I think that's what we've been able to do and kept us busy during the COVID season.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a takeaway to take from that, it's that, you know, be ready to adapt. I mean, there's a lot of festivals that did nothing over the last year. And I mean, always looking at how you are being sustainable, not just for the planet, but for yourself as a business, and what else you can do in these kinds of situations is a great way to sort of look towards the future. If there was takeaways for people to take from this conversation on how we can do better for the planet, I mean, as clubs are starting to reopen and as festivals are rolling out lineups, what would you say that those are? What advice do you have for those people on doing better this time around? Because it's kind of like we have a clean slate, you know?
Yeah, I think we do, for sure. And there's an opportunity, I think, and actually we see it now. We see a lot of businesses trying to find more purpose in their brands. And I think they also see that, you know, by having purpose, and a lot of it will link to environmental and things to do with the planet, just because, you know, it's probably one of the most urgent issues that we have out there now. So I think by engineering that purpose into their core brand, and as we spoke about today, making it really like the soul and the meaning behind it, rather than just like trying to add it on. I think if they try to add it on, you know, like trends, they come and go. And then as trends come and go, then, you know, then it won't be sustainable. So that's what I would hopefully, and I actually see a lot of businesses now integrated into their core DNA, into their purpose, which is very refreshing and encouraging to see. I think there's a lot of innovation beyond. I mean, I would encourage people to look just beyond, like, obviously you have single-use cups, you have single-use plastics, but that kind of went a little bit left or out when the pandemic came in, because no one wanted to share straws, right? No one wanted to, like, you know, so, but I think there's other ways to look beyond. I think one key takeaway from that I've had over the past couple of years is that a lot of the time, before you want to change other people, you look at changing yourself and the people around you, the closest people around you. And I think that's, as a company, that's what we're really focused on now as well. It's just like, you know, or company, how can we influence our company? If we can do that, then it makes a much better chance for us to actually influence someone else. And there's a lot of actions we can take through that, those things as well. So being mindful to yourself, I think, practicing, you know, those and examining those things, I think, is a first good step towards making a positive impact for the planet.
Just before we sign off, I want to put you guys on the spot and get an answer to the question that is on everyone's minds. Will there be a Wonderfruit this year?
I think you should answer that question for us, Olivia. I mean, okay. I think the only answer we can reply is that if it's safe to do so, and if it allows our community or international community to join us, right? I guess that's the answer that we could give. That if it's safe, and if our international community can join us. If we were to do something local, it wouldn't be Wonderfruit. Like last year, you know, that's why we had to come up with another brand, because we didn't feel that Wonderfruit without everyone coming. And it's not just participants, right? It's the people we work with, the collaborators. I mean, it's such an international and diverse community, actually from all over the world, now. Everyone we work with actually is from different continents and different countries. So yeah, we hope so, but I don't know. It's, this pandemic is it's sneaky, isn't it? The virus is sneaky. It keeps transforming into different things. So yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But we'll do something for
Fingers
sure.
and
We have
toes.
some stuff up our sleeve.
Okay.
Yeah, fingers and toes.
Yeah, you guys always have such great things up your sleeve. I'm not even concerned if Wonderfruit doesn't happen. I'm sure we're all going to witness the next crazy idea that you come up with, and that John has to bring it into reality. Thank you so much for tuning into our conversation. And if you, the viewer, decide to ever discover Wonderfruit, there are 3 words that you should know: live, love, and wonder. Thank you, and see you in the fields.
Thanks. Thank you,
See you
Olivia.
guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.